Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. These were the words of John Robert Lewis, former SNCC chairman and field secretary and U.S. representative, who just recently passed. And today we wanted to talk about John and our reflections and our memories about him. This is Loki Mulholland, and it's time to make some good trouble. I'm with my co-host, freedom rider and civil rights activist Luvaghn Brown. And Luvaghn, John passed away. How are you doing?
Well, it's a few days in. I'm much better. I expected it, but I wasn't ready for it. It's the only way I can put it. Because it says a lot about where we came from and who we were and the organization that John helped start and helped run. It said a lot, and it kind of it made me sad that he was gone because when he was not in front of the when he was not being the politician or leader of something, he was really just a good guy. He was the kind of human being that you wanted to be around, and he was always fighting for what's right. And he was, as he used to put it, he was always getting in trouble for doing the right thing. And that was one of the reasons that I think people liked him. He went through his troubles because he was, in the movement, because he was darker than most. Uh, he didn't talk as well as some of the other people did, but they were looking to be politicians, I guess, and he was just looking to be, he was somewhere between a politician and a minister, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, which is fitting because, he was trying to preach to them chickens.
But oh God, he was just a good guy, and I remember when they had to march on Washington. John was one of the people that we were considered the SNCC organization, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, were considered radical.
Right.
And John was going to give a speech at the March on Washington. And we were so proud, to have him up there and giving a speech. And I guess somebody whispered in his ear that he had to tone it down a bit. I don't think all he was going to say was not all that revolutionary, but he was tired. His thing was like, why do we have to wait? Why do we have to put up with that when they've had hundreds of years to straighten us out? All of a sudden, to get our freedom, we got to wait. And John was going to talk about that. Now, we did arrange for him to give his speech up in Harlem that he was going to give in Washington.
Really?
Yeah, we did. He came to Harlem and he gave a speech. And he gave the speech he was going to give.
Marching like Sherman marched.
Yes,
to Savannah.
through the South.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just tired. It was time for us to be treated as equals, as citizens, and it was time. And that's all he wanted to say. But Martin, and the rest of them kind of got him to tone it down. Incidentally, what most people didn't know was that they had people that were on and it was the old days, so they had the mics and they had the wires to the sound box, and they were ready to turn it off in case he veered from his speech.
Wow. But then Dr. King veers from his speech and gives the "I Have a Dream" portion, which was not part of the planned speech.
Yeah, but that was okay.
Yeah, he's Dr. King.
Yeah, and he didn't talk about. He wasn't talking about starting a revolution,
right?
A movement. And John didn't mean it in the sense of everybody's going to pick up a gun, but he did mean it from the sense of we're tired of waiting. and this is what needs to happen, and we're going to make it happen. So it was slightly different when Dr. King did it.
Sure,
He
sure. I
went
mean,
long. He went longer than he was they planned on, but he didn't. He didn't go outside the bounds of the stuff they talked about.
right.
Um,
But you had that exuberance of youth. I mean,
well, yes,
with with John and the students
yeah,
of SNCC, it's quit your preaching, let's start marching.
right. Yeah.
When did you first meet John? Do you remember?
Well, where or when?
Sure,
Because
both.
because I think I know I met him in Atlanta. I know Chuck was there.
Chuck, meaning Chuck McDew,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Uh, um, MacDo, as he liked to say. First time in my life I ever met a black Jew, but Charles Frederick MacDo the third.
Oh, all right.
That was his whole name. Um,
Did you ever meet Sammy Davis Jr. later on?
I didn't meet him. I met um, Muhammad Ali. Well, he was Clash's Play then. He came to Jackson.
Well, he's not Jewish.
Oh, he's not Jewish, no. Oh, did
No.
I? Oh, you meant from?
Yeah,
No, no, I didn't.
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
I didn't meet Sammy
So
Davis.
you met him when he came to Jackson, though, Muhammad Ali.
Yes,
Yeah. See,
yes,
my mom, I guess she was there as well when he came. As what Cassius Clay, right?
right.
But they're like, hey, yeah, he's in town. I guess he was right down the street from the Kofo office or Medgar's office.
Well,
And
it wasn't Medgar's office. It was right down the street from ours, though.
oh, okay. So well, and I thought it was just on Lynch Street or something, but
Yeah, it was. The
yeah,
first SNCC office was on Lynch Street.
well, yeah,
Yeah, and Medgar's office was
right,
right
right.
down the street from that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, but she was like, well, nah, I'm all right. I'm like, wait, you didn't want to go meet Muhammad, Muhammad Ali, right? Cassius Clay, and
Yeah.
she's like, well, I wasn't into boxing. I'm like, oh gosh, mom.
Oh,
Okay.
oh.
Oh well, la di da.
Well, no. And furthermore, it had nothing to do with boxing.
Right.
Man, that's not why you come to Mississippi.
Right. She would have been
Yeah,
with you there, but she just like, nah, I'm all right.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, mom.
We
Uh,
had, I was explaining to them the other day that we had a lot of people that got involved when in Jackson, in Mississippi, when we had the food drives and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
All those guys, Marlon Brando. Matter of fact, the guy who became head of NRA, Charlton
Charleston
Heston,
Heston, yeah,
gave money. Uh, so there was a lot going on then.
yeah. But
Uh,
but then
anyway,
with John though, at maybe in Atlanta or Nashville at some of those or Memphis, I don't know, some of those SNCC meetings.
right. Well, I definitely met him there
Yeah,
when we went to. We went from Chicago. We had the meeting in Atlanta. He was there,
yeah.
so he was but I didn't meet him.
That was the one with Dick Gregory and everyone there, right?
About yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My
And
mom was at that one. Yeah.
yeah,
My work has taken me to a lot of places, and I've been fortunate to meet some incredible people. But when I came to Selma and met Joanne Blackman Bland, I knew I was in the presence of greatness. Joanne was 11 years old when she was attacked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday in 1965. She wasn't old enough to vote, but understood its importance enough to be there. After Selma is an in-depth look at how our right to vote has eroded since the signing of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. The fight for the right to vote continues. Get informed. You can find After Selma on Amazon Prime or visit LokiMulholland.com to purchase a copy for your collection. But what was it about John that, I mean, he's such an unassuming individual,
right.
but, quiet, peaceful sort of person. And yet, I mean, here he, rises up these ranks, if you will, and SNCC and just embodies the movement of the student movement.
He first of all he spoke when he spoke with conviction,
Hmm.
and he was never in the background. He was always out front. He led from the front, and
That
that's
wasn't an ego thing or anything.
no,
No.
that's just who he was.
Right.
He didn't ask you to do something he didn't do,
Oh, okay.
and that's what people liked. And also he was the common man,
Mm,
which a lot of people got involved. Not the people that came from the north or from the universities, but the common man. He spoke for that.
right.
He spoke for black and white. He spoke for a lot of things that people just he just appealed to people for that reason because of who he was.
Yeah.
Um, we had leaders, we had Stokely's, we had all kinds of people,
Hmm.
but John was the kind of guy who what he said he did. So if he wanted you to go on a walk, on a march, on a ride, he was there.
Yeah.
He couldn't be everywhere at once, but he finally got there,
Yeah.
and
I'm
I
not
think
knock
that's what people like.
Yeah. I'm not knocking Dr. King, but I mean, like for the freedom rides, for example, I mean, he was all for the freedom rides. He just wasn't going to get on the bus.
Well, not only that, we never, by the way, saw
Right.
Dr. King in Mississippi.
Right. The argument was like, well, I just got arrested. I'm on parole or whatever, and everyone's like, yeah, we all are.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know.
Well, but keep in mind that all of us young folks, everybody was young, but
Right.
uh, all of us kids uh, were we were the revolutionaries. So we didn't want to hear if you weren't with us, you weren't with us. That's fine. So if you did all right in Georgia, you stay there. We don't need that.
Right.
What we need people to do things. And John was that kind of person. James Foreman was that kind of guy. I remember he came to Mississippi.
Right. Right.
Right. So I think that's the difference. I think people got close to John, and John got close to people.
Hmm.
Um, and Jim was like that too. Jim was the same way.
Hmm.
Uh, so we had leaders that were, what's her name? Well, my mind is working. The woman who was one of the founders of SNCC.
Oh, Diane Nash.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
oh, 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 yeah. She was an older lady.
Yeah, she was a lawyer,
Ella Baker.
Ella Baker.
Yeah.
She always warned us about having people in charge who were leaders, because she said as the man will take the leader, and that's the only one that he'll talk to or pay attention to.
Hmm.
And leaders tend to be leaders for themselves.
Right.
So John, he was though he got to be head of SNCC. He was with you. You always felt him. You knew he was there. Jim was like that.
Yeah.
Foreman.
Right.
They were like that. So and it never mattered to him who was there as long as they wanted to be there.
Right.
And a lot of people came in and out of SNCC, and they came in and out of CORE. But they were there for a minute or two. They got their name in the paper, then they were gone.
Right.
And John wasn't like that.
Well, it is interesting you're saying in '63, he was tired, right? It's just uh,
Well, John was.
John was, yeah.
Well, you get beat up as much as he.
Well, yeah. Well, and the beatings were just starting. I
Yeah.
mean,
So yeah.
2 years later would be the Edmund Pettus Bridge,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, it was it was a constant thing for him. Uh,
Sam Block was like that, by the way.
really.
When Sam was working in the Delta, he was
Hmm.
forever getting beat up. We should just tell him, stick your head out the door and let him hit you a few times, and then come on back in. Well, there was one difference was, see, they both said and did the same thing. Sam just couldn't keep his mouth shut, and neither could uh, uh, what's his? Oh, Jesus, my mind is just not working. Um,
Bob
no, 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 no. Who were we just talking about? Uh,
Stokely,
no.
Sam Block,
Hold on a minute.
Jim,
No, keep
Ella
going.
Baker.
It just died. It just died.
Oh, CT Vivian.
No, the other guy who just died.
Oh,
John.
John.
So, but
That's the
John,
whole point of this conversation, and you can't even remember John's name?
that's right, I
Hey,
couldn't.
damn.
I'm old, I'm tired, so I don't
Alright,
remember
alright,
everything.
alright, alright. You get off my back. Get 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 all the way off that.
Yeah, just
Alright,
just
so go
yeah,
ahead.
so but they did the same kind of thing, but Sam, I don't know, there was a way that Sam talked that just pissed people off.
Right.
And and I guess when John did the same thing, but John would say the same thing, but sometimes he didn't say anything.
Mm,
You when you think about it a minute, when we were on Oprah, and I didn't know this had happened, and the
mm,
guy that hit him
right.
showed up in his office.
Mhm.
Can you imagine the impact he had to have had on the person? Not taking anything away from the person,
Right.
but the impact he must have had
Yeah.
where the guy sought him out for all those years. He
Mhm.
finally found out who he was. He came to his office and apologized
Yeah. Now this is from the Freedom Rides in Rock Hill.
from the Freedom Rides, right?
Yeah.
And him and John went out speaking together.
Yeah.
And when Oprah called and wanted us as many Freedom Riders as possible to be on the show, John invited him
Mm,
because that's the kind of guy he was.
right.
You know, he forgave the guy for hitting him. Uh, and if people used to hit him all the time, not all the time, but when people would hit him, he was the kind of guy who he never, well, he had to get angry, but he didn't get angry at them. He
Right.
got angry at the situation.
Mm.
And that's just, I don't know how to explain it, but that's who he was.
In my other life, I'm a filmmaker, and one of my more fascinating films I created is the award-winning film titled Black, White, and Us. It's about viewing racism through the lens of transracial adoptions in Utah. Utah? Yeah, Utah. It just so happens to be the transracial adoption capital of the world. So what happens when white families who didn't believe racism existed anymore adopts a black child? Find it on Amazon Prime or visit LokiMulholland.com to purchase a copy for your collection. Was he the type of person that recognized that these people that were hitting him were a product of a system? That he wasn't necessarily blaming them as much as he was blaming that they were conditioned?
I guess so. I don't remember having that conversation with him,
All right.
but I know that he was ready to forgive and forget
Mm,
as long as the person was. So when this guy showed up in his office, John was already forgiving.
yeah.
And so that's the kind of person he was. But he did everything he did. That was the word. He did it with conviction,
Right.
and he didn't do it with hatred.
Mhm.
So and people knew that. So it's not that he hated people. He just he had a set of convictions and he lived by them. So that if they beat him up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, they beat him up.
Right.
You know, he would go home and pray for the guy.
Mm.
So it was he was an amazing human being.
This idea that he was doing this not out of hatred against people.
No, right?
I mean, yeah, yeah, you could be a cracker, you could be in the Klan, you could be whatever, but he wasn't gonna hate you because he understood where you were
Right,
coming from.
right, correct. He hated the system,
It's the system.
not the person.
So he never really so because today there's a lot of and we talked about this. There's a lot of people who are angry at people.
Yeah, yeah,
Angry at at the police, angry at this, angry at that, and it seems that it's right now we're on this this individual cancel culture type thing. For example, Ann Cooper in New York, right? The lady who was practically choking her dog as she's getting hysterical on the phone about,
oh
oh,
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
feeling
yeah.
threatened. Well, the guy, Chris Cooper, that was the bird watcher guy, the African American
Right,
guy, said, I'm
right,
not going to be involved in her prosecution. She's already been punished enough. He says, if we prosecute her, you're missing out on what created her. That's what Chris Cooper said. That sounds like a John Lewis type thing. It's like, look, you can get upset and take it out on that person, but you're not solving the problem. They
correct.
will make her they'll make that person a sacrificial lamb if you want it, You can get after that one police officer, but you're not dealing with the system. Don't get angry with the person, get angry with the system.
Correct. That doesn't solve a problem.
Wow.
That does not solve a problem.
What's your favorite memory of John?
I think it was actually at the probably at the last um, reunion.
Mhm.
Well, I
Like
think
the 50th?
I think yeah, it must have been the
Yeah.
50th.
Okay.
And he said he got up on stage, and you were expecting this. Well, a lot of people were expecting this, representative, and he's John Lewis, and he's going to speak. And he just came up and said, "I'm home,"
Mm.
and he started talking, and
Yeah.
he had all kinds of stuff to say, and he was having a ball.
Yeah.
He was relaxed. He was John.
Yeah.
Uh,
Was this the Freedom Ride reunion or the SNCC reunion?
the SNCC reunion. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Yeah, no, at the SNCC reunion.
Yeah.
And well, I think Holder spoke, and John, I think, spoke just before him,
Mm.
and he got up and said, "Yeah, I'm home."
Yeah.
And he was surrounded by people that loved him,
Yeah.
and he knew it.
Right.
And it was his way of saying, I belong. This is where I belong.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Yeah, my mom said something the other day on we did this interview, for a local news show, and, they Zoomed her, Zoom call and that sort of stuff with her. And she had said something that, when um, that he was more than family, that those in the movement who were in the fight together, who were facing the same dangers,
Right.
that there was this, that you were more than family,
Yeah.
and that transcended all the years later. That, yeah, you might not see him because, well, he lived in Atlanta or he was, dealing with Congress stuff, but every time you guys got together, she said every time we got together, it was like old home week.
Yes. She's right.
There was this different sort of bond that was there that a lot of people just don't understand. And
It wasn't until somebody, I don't know where we were, Charlie started singing, but he was talking about something, and I realized, I don't know who said it, but that we were actually at war,
mm,
and we were. So when we got together, no, I remember I told you we used to get every now and we didn't have any money, but every now and then when we did have enough, we'd buy something to drink, or we'd sit and talk, or we were singing to each other. But we were in a war, and we were together. It was like an army unit, if
mhm,
you
mhm,
will. And anybody who was a part of that was in that.
right,
So if you needed something, or you felt something, or you whatever, people tried not to take advantage of you.
mhm,
Well, if you were hurting, if you were in pain, if you wanted something, if you needed something, if you felt something, you felt all right saying it.
yeah,
Because even if the person didn't like it, it had nothing to do with you. It had to do with what you said. And they would tell you that. Because we used to argue. People used to argue. I mean,
oh yeah,
but
families argue.
that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah, I just think about John, and yeah, I didn't know him that well, if at all. I mean, I met him, a handful of times,
Right,
um, but he was. I think what really struck me. I mean, he was always, very very cordial, and so forth,
right,
just like everyone would think. He's a great politician, right?
right,
But a great person. But it was always, "Where's your mom? Take care of your mom."
right,
Those sort of things. So he was. Uh, just something about him and my mother. But I think that was true for anybody that was in the movement. But he was always thinking of other people.
right. Exactly,
You
exactly,
know,
exactly.
yeah, um,
And going back to the farm,
yeah,
which we told him the last SNCC meeting we had, you're not going anywhere. You just, we got you. The thing I think must have hurt him a lot. I noticed was when Obama ran for president,
mm,
because Hillary, I know people didn't like her for a lot of reasons, because well, most of it because they didn't know her.
right,
Uh, but all of the stuff that she had done as a person, and she and John were good friends,
Hmm.
and it was hard for him to go against her and pick Obama.
Mm.
I think Hillary understood it because he was a black man who had a chance to be president. Now he liked Obama. I mean, it wasn't just any black man that he was going to say was okay to be president, but he was Obama. This was the guy. This was our time,
Yeah.
and he had trouble. It troubled him to go against Hillary to do that. Not against her, but to go for Obama.
Right.
He had a tough time with that.
Mm.
Um, and I wouldn't doubt, I may be wrong, that he had something to do with Obama picking Hillary as Secretary of
Secretary of
State.
State. Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that.
An Ordinary Hero was my first award winning documentary. It's about the life of my mother, Joan Trumpauer Mulholland, and her participation in the civil rights movement. For most of us, our mothers are heroes because they're mothers, and mom is just mom. But when your mother's a civil rights icon, and yet you never really knew it, things change. Go check out An Ordinary Hero and find out how choosing to do what was right instead of what was easy helped change the world. You can find it on Amazon Prime, or visit LokiMulholland.com to purchase a copy for your collection. I think about, here was this guy. I mean, and I mean, he represents a lot of people, obviously, because of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. A lot of the civil rights workers, because of those iconic images on the bridge. But here was this guy who he's willing to go to the distance for the right to vote, for a lot of rights, but in particular the right to vote. That beaten to an inch of his life, his skull is cracked,
Right.
just to vote. And what are we asked to do? I mean, mail in a ballot, or show up to a polling station?
That's why every time if there's a black person, you know, that says I didn't vote or I'm not going to vote,
Mhm.
they can't talk to me.
Right.
That's why. I mean, that's one of the reasons because they don't understand what people went through to do that, to vote
Yeah, and I don't think white people understand that just as importantly, this was about, 'cause look, black people could vote. Legally, they could vote
legally. Yes.
according to the Constitution,
Right.
but it was this voter suppression that was taking place to take away that ability to vote. Not the right to vote, the ability to vote.
Right. Right.
And so what John was doing and what all of all of you were doing was making sure that everyone had the equal access to the vote. The Voting Rights Bill opened that for everybody. The Voting Rights Act, of 65, wasn't just for African Americans. It was to make sure everyone could vote, that it would strip away voter suppression. And because that's what we're seeing now, is that what is going on today, uh, is taking away not just the rights, the access, the simple access to the right to vote, but for African Americans or Hispanics, it's for a lot of people, white and black.
Yes, it is. And the more people that believe in the rights of the individual, the more you will see those kinds of actions taking
Right.
place. Right? Because we have a lot more people now that want to vote for the right things.
Mhm.
They want to vote for health care and they want people to have the right to vote and the right to go to schools and the right. There are a lot more people now that want that. So all those people, the Republicans mainly, who are fighting against that, will find all kinds of ways to make sure that you anybody that believes that uh, doesn't vote. So that's why the state of Texas, the state of
Right.
Virginia,
Georgia,
all
Alabama,
Georgia,
North Carolina,
Alabama,
South
all
Carolina.
those, all those states that always believed in that, they have to find new ways to do it. So they're finding. So the last one left, or one of the ones left, is mail, and that's why I'm so glad that people are paying attention because then they'll be prepared but what these states are going to do to them.
Yeah. So now there is a you mentioned another memory that made you chuckle about so let me ask this question. So was John a good dancer?
Ah, was he a good dancer? Let's put it this way: he danced with feelings, and he tended to stay in the same place, move a lot.
Right.
Uh,
So you said you saw him dance outside his office once.
well, he was. Somebody took a picture of that outside of his office, and then he had done it other times. Anytime Pharrell would sing that song,
Happy,
John, we'd be
whatever it was.
happy. We
Yeah.
get John to dance, and then he tried to move his head, but he just couldn't. He just basically stayed in the same place and and, and just moved his body up. He was okay. He went through a lot. I mean, the other thing was, and we that he talked about that. Well, he didn't talk about it outside, but he talked about it sometimes at the meetings and stuff.
Mm,
Because of what he was, there were a lot of people that didn't want him to be president. He was not light enough.
mm,
He was not educated enough. He was not a whole bunch of things. Uh, and they tried to keep John from being head of SNCC
mm,
for that reason, because they had an image of what the leadership should look like,
mm.
and John wasn't it. Um, so it we had so there were internal politics that went on as well,
Right.
uh, and I think everybody came to accept him for who he was, but in the beginning they didn't.
What should we be learning from John's life? I mean, what's
I think that to change things requires commitment. Number one. Number two, there's more than one way to have a fight. Meaning, he went into Congress, so that was one way, but he didn't. He did that as a part of,
mhm,
because if you listen to the bills he sponsored or the speeches he gave, it was always about the rights of man. Uh, and I think that if we live that, and by the way, he didn't look at it as I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go do something else. It's a lifelong commitment. However you fight, keep fighting,
mm,
and I think that's the takeaway. However you do it, when I used to be able to get around more and I spoke to a lot of kids, I would tell them it doesn't matter what you do if you're doing it with conviction.
right.
If you're supporting a cause, support the cause.
Mm,
And not everybody's going to agree with you about the cause, and not everybody's going to agree with you about the way to fight. That's not your problem. Your problem is, are they being effective? Or is what they're trying to do is what they're trying to do is fix things?
yeah.
And I think that's what John was. It was just whatever he did, part of him was always fighting the fight.
Mm.
You look at his speeches, or you look at when he went to speak, you look at when he went to talk. That's what he was about.
And he was true to who he was because even in Congress, remember he did that sit-in.
Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He never stopped fighting, and I think that's the message that you can't go home and not fight. Keep doing it, however you do it.
Want a great way to help a worthy organization and educate children about the civil rights movement? Visit our foundation, the Joan Trumpauer Mulholland Foundation, at thejtmfoundation.org. That's thejtmfoundation.org. We are a 501c3 established to help end racism through education. A $5 monthly recurring donation will provide curriculum for 30 students. As my mother used to say, I can't do everything, but I can do something, because doing nothing is not an option. If you have wanted to help in this cause, but didn't know how, now you can. The Joan Trumpauer Mulholland Foundation at thejtmfoundation.org. Yeah. There was, I read this article in USA Today about the Doc Rivers, right? Los Angeles Clippers coach, and when he was a player with the Hawks, Atlanta
Mhm.
Hawks, he went out with Andrew Young was running for governor. At this point, he was the mayor of Atlanta, but Andrew Young was
Okay.
running for governor, and so he went on this campaign trip with John and Andrew Young, um, and and Andrew is this is down in Albany, Georgia, and he's the place is just like it's all white church, right? And it was this amazing speech, and the crowd was just going crazy, right? It's just riveted. He says we get on the plane and we're talking, and Andrew Young turns to me and said, he used to call me Young Doc. He said, "Young Doc, what do you think about that speech?" And I jokingly said, "Well, Mr. Young, I thought the speech was great, but I don't think you're going to get one vote from that church." And everybody started laughing. Well, John Lewis piped in and says, "Well, you're not trying to get all of them. We're just trying to get one at a time. And
Right.
eventually, it will be all of them."
Right. Right.
I mean, the power of one. I mean, and just it's just that pragmatic approach of saying, the most important audience is the one that's there. And if I'm preaching to one and I can convert that one, then I'll go to the next one and the next one and the next
That's
one.
all. If you look at what's going on now, and the people that are fighting, and the people that are marching, or the people that these are people, even the people who are opposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are doing this, out trying to cover up Black Lives Matter, or the ones who are pulling the guns. Those are people that have been affected. They've been, you know, you just if that's all your fight is, you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
That woman with her dog. If the guy's telling her to, put your dog on a leash, and he says, I'm done. I've made my message. I've sent a message. Now she may be angry about that. She may understand why he did what he did, but he knew when to stop. He's not trying to kill anybody. He's leaving her a way out, and he's saying, "I'm not going to be a part of anything else."
Right.
That's how John fought.
Mm.
That's how he fought, and that's how you win. That's how you win.
I was just thinking of, gosh, and my brain's tired. Maybe I said this at the beginning. John was one of those people that you just kind of thought was going to live forever.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
it was. Yeah, it was always there.
this really made me reflect about this generation. I mean, you guys are getting old, right?
Yeah.
Um, no offense, but that
Mhm.
happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Well, I discovered it myself a few months ago, so it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. If we're lucky enough to live that long,
Right.
and it's just this is like this is a chapter that's ending as the new one's being written,
Right.
and we're living it right now. This new chapter is being written right now, and someone had said, what's how can we honor John? And I said, go vote.
That's it.
Just that's what he fought for. So just go and vote.
I think about there was I forget the name of the town, but whatever it was a pretty much all white. The town was. They were like 90 some percent white. So the other 5% must have been the maids or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
the but they were out there with signs with Black Lives Matter.
Hmm.
That town was out there demonstrating.
Right.
That shows you this just first of all, it shows you how wrong things are, and it shows you that people have changed.
Hmm.
Uh, they're not ready to throw out America, but they are ready to make it open to more people.
Right.
Um, that balance we always try to have of, don't take too much from them because then they get mad, and then
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about that anymore because they now see a lot of people now see that it was being done to them too.
Right.
And if we're smart enough, we will embrace them. Now, I know that's not the Stokely Carmichael model,
Right.
but it's mine. It always has been that you don't win the battle unless you get everybody.
Right.
And if you look at who's marching, if you look at who's walking, uh, you're getting people. You're getting people.
And you think about, Doc Rivers', young perspective at the time of, you're not gonna get any of them, right? Because 'cause
Yeah,
they're white,
right.
and, yeah, all we need is one,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. I don't wanna say any last thoughts. I wanna say, do you have any last words you'd wanna say to John?
The only thing I can think of, and the only thing I would ever say to John is thanks a lot. That just thanks because I learned a lot from him. I learned how to fight. I finally learned how to stop using my fists, but I learned how to fight. I learned what's important and what isn't. I learned to keep my eyes open and not be fooled by uh, what's going on outside of the arena.
Hmm,
I keep, and I learned that from him, and he was always happy about it. But he was always fighting, and that's my mantra. Just keep moving forward.
keep on keeping on.
That's it. You're quoting your mother now. Um, but I think it was just say thanks. I mean, he's done his part.
Yeah, he earned his rest.
He's earned it. He's earned it. He's earned it.
Well, thank you, Luvaghn. Appreciate the time to sit here and reflect on John a little bit. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, he was something else.
amen. Thank you again for listening. Make sure you head to my Patreon page at patreon.com/LokiMulholland. Show a little love if you can, and get access to even more content. Until next time, don't be afraid to get uncomfortable.